Welcome to Knox Talks, the AI-generated podcast exploring the groundbreaking ways technology shapes our built environment. Today, we're diving into a question that's getting weirdly competitive in smart buildings. Who owns the building's brain? Not the concrete, not the chillers. The brain is the living history of how the place actually behaves. Trend logs, alarms, overrides, schedules, set points, and all the labels that explain what each point really is. Add in maintenance notes and work orders, and suddenly you've got something far more valuable than raw sensor readings. You've got operational context, and that's exactly what modern analytics tools want, because that's what makes machine learning work. Here's the scenario I keep hearing in different forms. An owner or facilities team brings in an analytics platform to cut energy and improve comfort. The vendor says, "No problem. We just need access to your building management system data." Everyone's happy for a year, maybe two. Then the portfolio wants to add a second tool or switch providers, and that's when the fun starts. The export is incomplete. The download is just a pile of time series numbers with no tags, no asset IDs, no equipment hierarchy. No, this point belongs to this air handler. The automated data feed has limits nobody negotiated, and buried in the contract is a clause that says the vendor can use de-identified combined data to improve services, which sounds harmless, until you realize it can include training models that benefit the vendor's product roadmap and not necessarily your building. At that point, the fight isn't about dashboards, it's about leverage. If you can't leave with your full data set in the context you paid to create, you're not owning intelligence. You're renting it. And this is where "we own the data" becomes a trap phrase. Ownership sounds strong, but it doesn't help if you don't have clear, enforceable permissions and practical access. When you strip it down, data rights are really 6 questions. First, who owns the raw information? The trends, alarms, and metadata? Second, can you access it easily? Not upon request, not "we'll get back to you," but can you pull it automatically any day in real time? Third, what is the vendor allowed to do with it? Only deliver the service you're paying for? Or also reuse it for product development and model training? Fourth, who owns the derived work? Things like fault rules, tagging maps, normalization layers, and performance metrics that were built using your building's history. Fifth, how long is it kept, and what does deletion actually mean? Is it truly removed, or does it live forever in backups? And sixth, can you move it in a usable format with the context intact without a 6-month retagging project? One fun fact from the trenches: teams rarely fail because the algorithms are bad. They struggle because the building data is messy, inconsistent naming, missing tags, no agreed asset registry. The glamorous part is the insights. The grind is making the data understandable. So where do contract wars usually happen? 1. The contract says you own the data, but access is throttled, expensive, or missing key context. 2. The vendor claims the intelligence is theirs, even if you paid for tuning and configuration, and you leave with a raw export that's basically unusable. 3. Training rights are vague. Improved services becomes a blank check unless you draw boundaries. 4. Retention after termination is fuzzy. If you cancel, what happens to 5 years of history and enrichment? 5. Offboarding is slow. Support ends on termination, but exports arrive weeks or months later, which can force you to keep paying just to transition. Now layer in privacy. Building data isn't always just building data. As soon as you can tie it to identifiable people, access logs, named occupancy records, certain types of video analytics, you've stepped into privacy law territory. That changes the stakes. Cross-border cloud storage, subcontractors, breach notification, incident cooperation, all of that belongs in the deal, not in hopeful assumptions. So what should you ask vendors in plain English? If we terminate, can we export everything, including tags, asset IDs, equipment hierarchies, and documentation? And how fast? Can we pull data automatically, or do we need to request it manually? Do you train models on our data? If yes, exactly what data, for how long, and can we opt out? What do we keep if we leave? The fault rules, the tagging schema, The performance metrics configuration? Where is the data stored and who else can access it? And if we want two analytics tools at once, can both read the same feeds without restrictions? Then do a simple test, a data fire drill. Pick one critical system and request a real export. Say, the last 60 days, plus all metadata and structure. Then try to use it somewhere else. Whatever breaks is your lock-in. Finally, what does good look like? A one-page data charter you attach to every main ag. Finally, what does good look like? A one-page data charter you attach to every main agreement and statement of work. Short, enforceable, boring, and that's the point. It should say, the vendor can use the data only to deliver the service. No model training unless you explicitly opt in. You get automated access, exports include full context. Deletion happens on a defined timeline with written confirmation, and anything you paid to customize can be exported and reused. Because the most expensive lock-in isn't hardware, it's the invisible brain you've built over time.